Hi, Danielle. Welcome to Women in STEM. Before we actually proceed with the rest of the interview, could you tell our audiences a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. My name is Danielle Gethers. I'm a rising junior at MIT studying mechanical engineering, and I was just elected the first Black woman president of our student government.
Yeah, congratulations. And you created history when you were the first Black woman, right? As the first Black woman president of the UA. So my first question is that I'm pretty sure you received a lot of appreciation from a lot of people, but is there one reaction, say from friends or family or someone you respect, that you will cherish forever? Something that means more to you than other reactions you've received?
Yeah, I think it's really nice to kind of be congratulated by people who have served in the role before. I think they have a unique perspective about what it actually takes, and kind of to have them give me feedback on my plans, my ideas, and just be willing to support me throughout the way. It's just very helpful. It's like so reassuring to know that someone who's gone through what you're about to go through and has been successful, and they're willing to like fight as hard for you as they would for themselves moving forward.
Nice. Um, so as the president of UA, what kind of changes do you plan to bring about for like a more inclusive MIT?
Yeah, so I think like given the national conversations on anti-Black racism, police brutality in general, we have a very like unique opportunity to make like so much change on campus that groups have been pushing for like years, that now we actually have like national firepower around to like change. And then on top of that, like with COVID-19, there's just so much inequity that like was created and that will continue to like happen moving into fall with like remote learning. So I think it's really important to have a student government that's so passionate about kind of transparency and authenticity like we ran on. I think students have opinions. They want administrators to listen to them. So the UA can serve a role in like actually listening to students and making sure that making sure that administrations hear what undergraduates are saying. And then also I think it's really easy to like get caught out of the loop. I think the student government can do such a better job of being visible and like actually making sure that students like with shaky Wi-Fi connections in different time zones have access to information that is very easy to miss in an email. Like
Yeah.
on top of that, moving more into like actual diversity initiatives, I think we still celebrate Columbus Day. Like it should definitely be Indigenous people's name. Most people agree. It's just like a bureaucratic thing that hasn't changed. So we're really pushing to change that. I think Bryce just agreed to give like more money for graduate student fellowships, more money for anti-racist research. So I'm really excited moving forward, and I think there's just so many different vectors we can push to make change.
Right. Um, so just like stepping a bit back, do you think like in general the atmosphere at MIT is more inclusive than what you had so far before your college life?
Yeah, I think it's different. So growing up in Miami, Florida, there's a lot of diversity, and I think my high school had people from all over the world, and it was a very like kind of open learning experience. But one thing I think is different at MIT is although there's that same like shared learning, I think there's a lot of different like sectors at the institute, right? So we have really strong communities, and our communities are what make our school great, but I think there's not as much collaboration across communities. And I think that's just like a college versus high school thing. Like you can
Yeah.
very easily live with your best friends, major with your best friends, only do your homework with your best friends in college versus like high school. It's like you guys are in this class, work like figure it out. So I think one thing that threatens us at MIT is the fact that you can just get siloed into the same thinking, right? You can have friends who believe what you believe, think you're believing right, think you have like an informed understanding, but what is college really about? It's about learning things and honestly being uncomfortable. And I think one thing we really have to get used to at MIT is like starting to branch out and being way uncomfortable, like learning things that may be troubling to us, but will benefit us in the future.
Right. Is there any policy that you are like aiming to bring in place to bridge this gap between communities?
Yeah, definitely. So as the officer on diversity this past year, I really saw how like stagnated and separated our communities were, like from like the Latino cultural center wanting to like meet with the BSU and just not having the structure for that, with like South Asian Students Association kind of like wanting to be incorporated in different things. So one thing I realized was as a student government kind of over all these groups, we could help facilitate that collaboration. Like I think it's great that they want to do it, and if they're struggling to get that done, like we should step in and help. So one thing we're doing is we're actually actually working this week really hard to hopefully create the diversity council by the end of the summer. So we would be bringing in all these diversity stakeholders, so presidents, the exec boards of all these different groups, and kind of giving them a forum within the UA in which we'd be able to update them on what we're working on. They can all share what they're working on, and then like actually focus on how can we collaborate, what do we need to do. And I think moving forward, it will just like completely change how our student government prioritizes diversity, equity, inclusion.
Wow, that's great. But I think the COVID-19 does add to the challenges, right? Because now you can't have in-person meetings and everyone is like scattered across the globe.
Yeah, agreed. But I do think like UA Council is like our legislative body. We typically meet every 2 weeks during the school year. And because of COVID, we voted to have summer meetings. So every 2 weeks, we actually have been meeting over Zoom. And although it's not the same, we have been able to do a lot of things. So I think it will be something we're able to adapt to.
Okay. Amazing. It's really great what you and the rest of the student body officers are doing. It's really great. Can you share with the viewers what your plans are after graduation?
Oh yeah. So right now I'm planning on going to law school. I actually want to be a patent lawyer. So use like the engineering. I'm doing mechanical engineering. I'm using that understanding to hopefully go into law and help people protect their intellectual property, where it's like trade secrets, copyrights, or patents.
Wow. Oh, I don't really know much about either mechanical engineering or law, but I think it's a very unique combination, right?
Yeah.
What prompted you to actually choose this combination?
Yeah, so I'm blessed. My mom was actually a lawyer growing up. So she's not a patent lawyer. She didn't do anything STEM. But I kind of got exposed to a lot of different careers in law growing up. And I think I always felt this like tug between I loved humanities. Like I loved writing, I loved history, but then I also loved science and engineering and using 3D printers. And I felt like I had a pick, right? Like it's like, do I pick a research institution? Do I pick liberal arts? Like it's like very few people you hear about like double majoring or really being able to mesh it efficiently in terms of humanities and STEM. And then really early on, I met a woman who was a patent lawyer. She was like, yeah, I did engineering undergrad. I went to law school and now I love my job. People talk to me about their inventions. I get to like litigate and like argue in the courts to protect them. And it's just like really fun. I get to do everything I'm passionate about. So I'm just really blessed I met her and a couple other patent lawyers who were able to explain to me what they actually did. And it really just resonates with me. So I'm hoping I'll be successful in pursuing that.
Nice. Why did you particularly choose patent lawyer?
Yeah. So I think it's like back to that tug and pull. And I think that I just like I've always loved STEM, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what I loved until later on. And I think it's really around like product design. So I'm actually doing like 2A at MIT, so mechanical engineering flex, but with product design. So like I've always been like, oh, like instead of like, oh, I like playing with this toy, but I want to know like how this toy works, like what makes it different from other toys. And like I used to like keep my mom's old contact lenses and practice like rehydrating and dehydrating so I could like understand how like the polymers work. But I just think it's like very much I've always been like very like intellectually curious and wanting to know how things work. And I think in terms of patent law, it's really important to be able to like see two very similar products, but then be able to explain to people how it's different and why it's important that they're different and how that will affect business moving forward, customer satisfaction. So I just find it really interesting, and I think it's really cool to be able to find out about all the new inventions before they come out and are publicly released.
That's really great. Yeah, that's a very like specific vision, and I really love it that you are doing that.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so just like towards the end of the interview, I would like you to like give some advice to the young women out there who are aspiring to become the next generation leaders.
Yeah, I think like the best advice I can give is like don't let anybody tell you no. I could give like so many hundreds of stories of like if I let people tell me no, like I would be nowhere near where I am today versus it's like taking a hard class. Like I went to a new school for 8th grade and they told me like, oh, most students who transfer don't do good in honors or advanced classes. So they try to give me like a normal college prep class. And I was lucky I had a mom who's like, no, like she got all A's, like give her honors. But like especially the way like how competitive schools like MIT are, like it's really important to always be pushing yourself and you knowing what your limits are and how hard you should push yourself. So whether it's like no on taking advanced classes, no, don't apply to the school, no, don't be in student government, no, don't run for president. You know, there's just so many times that people are willing to limit you, and you just need to have your head set on a goal and be like, no matter what, I'm going to do what I think is best for me to do. So I think persistence is so important, and a lot of people get like, people are going to tell you no, right? Like, that's something you need to accept and get ready for, and you just need to be prepared to get around that no.
Yes. I think if you don't see a lot of people doing the kind of work or taking initiative around you, you can start believing that no.
100%.
Yeah, that is in fact why one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, that like to show people stories of success, you know,
Right.
like they should know that there's no reason that they have to believe what other people tell them. Is there anything you would tell people so that like to build a more inclusive environment overall in the world?
Yeah, I think gotten a lot of that question recently, and I think although like you kind of see everywhere like educate yourself, read these books, watch this documentary, and I think that's so important. But even more important than that is like understanding how you yourself play a role in the system, right? So I think it's really like it's really easy to be like, oh wow, look at that system of oppression. Like, look at those racist presidents or those racist government officials, right? But who's like, oh yeah, when I didn't vote, I was propagating that culture. Oh, when I didn't stand up for that one minority, when there was like a slick comment made, I was like perpetuating that culture. Oh, when that one woman in my group was being sexualized and I didn't say anything, like I was perpetuating that culture. And I think there's not that many documentaries that will like step out of the TV and be like, hey, this is your problem. Like, so I think it's so important to reflect on yourself, right? Like we all have prejudice and biases. Like that's how we were raised, every single person on this planet. Like we need to do the work to understand ourselves, and education is a point of that, but you can't just like read 10 books and then you're going to be the wokest person on earth, because that's not what being like woke and fighting for change is about. It's about understanding yourself.
Thank you. That was really a learning experience. Like
Sorry, that was a rant.
yeah, it was really nice talking to you, and we are really really proud of the work you are doing. So keep it up.
Thank you. This channel's so great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for gracing the show. See you.